Hey, Mark.
Hey Colin.
How are you?
Good. You might be asking, why do we look like a table today? Because we're going to be discussing Hive.
Awesome. I'm very
Pocket.
excited.
Me too, Colin. I never heard of this game before. My birthday a couple months ago, or a month ago, Colin got this for me. And I'm excited to play it with him now for the first time. So I have played it with my girlfriend. These are the rules, and these are the pieces. Before we kick off, Colin, what do you know about it?
All I did was a little bit of research because I know you're looking for a game that's pretty portable, that you can play when you're traveling around, because you go around a lot, and something you haven't played before. So I looked online for a game around those kind of terms. But I didn't get too deep into how it actually works. So this is my first experience of what the actual rules are.
Excellent, fine. So you have ticked all the boxes so far. It is a very portable. It's actually very durable. So these are secure little kind of plastic type pieces, but they're tough. The characters or the insects that are on it are engraved in or carved in and then painted. So there's less of a worry about them. If they get dirty, you can kind of give them a wipe or a wash and they're good to go. So you can use them anything from a camping trip to an aeroplane ride or whatever. So what you'll notice, which Colin has kind of identified there are a number of different designs on the pieces, plus there are black and there are white pieces. So the game, I would argue, is very similar to kind of a board game or a fun game version of chess. It's slightly less complex, but also has its intricacies and nuances as well. So what we'll do is I'll give a bit of an overview about the game, then I'll talk through the specific nuances of the rules, and then maybe what I would say is we can have a little game, and then we'll talk about your feedback and reactions afterwards.
It sounds fantastic.
Cool. So I would start by just giving a little bit of a kind of a summary. What we'll see is all these different pieces here, in the same way as chess. I think I might reference chess a couple of times on this. For those who haven't played chess, do learn that as well. But they all have different, if you like, abilities or movements. So one piece might move only a certain number of pieces or a certain number of squares, whereas another piece might be able to move unlimited number of squares. So there are different. Each of them have a different movement style. I'd like to find the mosquito and the ladybug.
Okay, it's a mosquito.
And the ladybug. And there should be one of each on both colours. This is the, if you like, the advanced or the expert version. We're not going to play that. So once we've played it a few times, we'll include those. But for the first game, we should take them out. They're slightly more complex on how they work, and it becomes a bit more difficult to play. And it says in the rules for the first time, just take these out. This is more like the expansion pack.
Okay.
So we now have the rest of the pieces that we are looking to do. So for obvious reasons, one person is the white colour and one person is the black colour. So Colin, you can choose. I guess we'd probably do something like this where we shuffle them up, choose one, so choose a hand. Okay, so you be the black pieces and I'll be the white pieces. The aim of the game is very simple. You will identify, so we'll just separate these into our own piles, and you'll identify a particular piece that only has one of them. This is the queen bee. The aim of the game is to surround the enemy's queen bee.
Okay.
So surround would be all of her, her sides, I guess is the right way to put it, would be covered, and you move this piece here and you win the game. It doesn't have to be with only your pieces, it has to be any of the pieces.
Okay, so surrounded by any colour.
Surrounded by any colour. And my aim is to do the same for you. A bit like chess and the kind of the checkmate in kind of identifying and then capturing their king. This is something similar.
Yeah, because you want to put the king in a position where he can't move.
Exactly. Yeah. Now there's no capturing of pieces in this game in the same way of chess, but there is some nuances that we'll talk through. So everyone has the same breakdown of pieces. You've got 3 grasshoppers, 3 ants, 2 spiders, and 2 beetles. I'll talk through what each of these does and then how we actually play the game, and then we'll kick off. The game is one of these, I think, where it's fairly simple to learn, but lots of intricacies and lots of fun. We have our own starting pile, and you have your starting pile, and then if you like, this is the game area that we're playing.
Okay.
We start off in the first 4 turns. You must play a piece, and one of those pieces must be the queen bee. But you can play any piece you like. So let's say white goes first. I don't even know if it tells you, but let's say that I go first. I'll play a piece. It doesn't matter. I'll play the ant. Now it's your go. You would play a piece that has to be connected to this piece, and for the first play, you can play it anywhere, so you'd play it to whichever one you'd like, choose an ant, fine. But from now on, you may only play a piece that is touching only your own colour. So I may not play a piece here, because although it touches my colour, it also touches yours. I may play a piece here.
Okay.
I may not play a piece that is not connected. At no point in the game can there be two, what they call hives. So you may never have a position where there's a connected and then you can make it two. You must always be connected to the main hive. Now this actually becomes a tactic later where you can imagine if I wanted, let's say your piece is like this and you wanted to move your ant, you're not allowed to. By doing this now, you would separate it into two hives. So I could, for example, once
so
I could
still need to touch each other.
They'd always need to touch. So I could move a piece, let's say the ant, which can move anywhere, I could move a piece here that would actually lock up both of your pieces until you made let's say you managed to get it like this, then you could move a piece away. And we'll talk about the specifics, but that's what I mean. So you may never have two hives. You may never split the hive. Okay? So in the first 4 turns, I've played one ant, you've played an ant.
Yeah.
Let's say I would like to play, for example, my queen bee, you can play another piece.
Brave.
Okay, you can play whatever piece. And remember, in the first 4 turns, you must play your queen. It doesn't have to be now, it can be another. You can play anyone you like. You can mirror mine or you can choose what you like, that's fine. I'll play a spider. Are you copying mine exactly? That's fine. I'll play an ant. And then Colin, you may play something.
So I can't touch you though. So
You
I can't
touch.
mirror your moves
Exactly. I
anymore.
did that just to stop you mirroring my move for my own amusement.
Okay. I'm gonna play one over here.
Okay. So now we've reached the fourth turn's done. Now I may choose to play a piece or to move a piece.
Yep.
Okay. So the first 4 turns you have to have done something like this where the queen is out and you've played at least 3 other pieces. I could now, for example, move my ant, or I could play a piece. I can't do both. I can't play a piece and move a piece because that's my turn.
So question though,
yeah.
in these first 4 moves, it doesn't matter what the abilities of these guys are, right?
At the moment, no. So I will tell you exactly. I will talk through the abilities in a moment, but it's you because at the moment you haven't moved. You're just placing. So how you place, you have to place anywhere that's, as I said, apart from the first move, only touching your own piece. I couldn't, as you said here, I couldn't have placed it in between. I can play this here. So then let's keep going. Let's say you place another piece and I'm playing. Right, we can keep going. It doesn't matter so far.
Okay.
But we'll talk about how they move now. So let's say instead of playing another piece, I decide I'd like to move my ant. What can they do? And I'll talk through each of the pieces now. The ant, very simple. It may move any number of places it likes. The ant is probably the best piece. Okay. So I could move my ant, for example, here. As long as it can get there, it will be fine.
Okay.
Okay. Now, you might think, well, hang on, it can't touch the enemy. No, it can. You just can't place it to touch the enemies. But you're allowed to touch the enemies.
It can move there. Placed there. Okay.
Okay. Now, another item to mention is, even if this was connected, you can't move a piece that is stuck. So you can't move a piece that would force another piece to move. So if you imagine now, let's say, and this is a hypothetical, but let's say that these pieces are connected such that it wouldn't separate to a separate hive. So normally you could move this piece because it would still be one hive. You can't move it because how are you going to move this through this gap without moving one of these other pieces?
I see what you mean.
Okay, so physically it can't move because there's this gap.
But if this guy was here, then it could move.
Then he could move because you're not physically moving it. So you can block in the enemies like this. So I could choose, if I was in this position like I am here, I could choose to move him around here and block your piece. Now he's stuck here, and also he couldn't move because it would separate the hive. So then it would be your turn. Now, what do some of the other pieces do?
Okay.
We've got some pieces on the table and we've mimicked them. So let's start with the ant can move any direction, any amount. It's a great piece. The queen actually moves like the king in chess. Do you know what the king can do in chess?
Move one movement in any direction.
Correct. And the queen is exactly the same here. She may move in any direction, but only a single move. So in this case, you might be thinking, oh, he's going to be trapping me, so maybe I'm going to move out here like this. Okay? You could move one piece like that. And that's fine.
Perfect. That was exactly what I was thinking.
It was. Okay, there we go. Fine, move it there. So that's what the queen can do. Next up, you might think, okay, so the spider. The spider is a restrictive piece, in my opinion, but I'll tell you what it does. It moves 3 in any one direction.
Okay.
So if I wanted to move my spider, I can move 1, 2, 3. I can't move 4.
So
and
direction
nor,
just means clockwise or anti-clockwise.
correct, sorry, yes, yeah, exactly. I can't go back on myself. So I can't go 1, 2, 3. I have to move in one direction in a straight, in a
And you have to use all 3?
You have to use all 3. That's what I mean by it being quite restrictive. The spider moves 3, and it's in, you can't go 1, 2, 3. You have to go 1, 2, 3, or kind of 1, 2, 3. So in this case, I don't really want to move any of my pieces. So we now know what the spider and the ant does. I'll talk about the beetle. I'm going to place the beetle as well, and I'm going to place it over here, which I can do because it's touching my piece. Now, what does a beetle do? A beetle can move one direction, one space in any direction, but also it can climb on top of a hive.
Oh.
So in this case, you'd be stopping your own piece. But if your piece was here, you can stop my piece. And this is the closest to capturing a piece you can do, because I can't move my piece until the beetle moves. Also, for the purposes of placing your next piece, this is blank. I can't place a piece here, you can. So this, it turns it into your color, it stops me from moving. But I could, if I was here, move and place it on top, and it becomes, so you can triple stack. You can stack as much as you like with your beetles. The moment I move, that gives you a chance to move. Okay? So the beetle is a very interesting piece. So your piece is there. Then finally, did you have anything you want to place first?
Should I place a grasshopper?
Sure, good idea. A great idea. And the grasshopper is a very interesting piece as well. So you choose any way you'd like to put, and actually for your own reference, you might want to put it there. I'll tell you why in a second.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
So a grasshopper can move only by hopping.
Okay.
Over pieces.
Ah.
Now it can hop any distance. So if I have my grasshopper, let's say I'll place my grasshopper here, or I'll place it here for another interesting reference because of how it'll play out. So now your grasshopper may only
it's a bit of
move.
foreshadowing there, people.
Because I'll show you what happens. So if you decide to move your grasshopper, the only move you can do is to hit.
All right.
Okay? Because it jumps any number of pieces and it gets to the end. Now it may not jump. So that's your move. My move, I may not jump from here to here because I can't jump over a gap. But I can jump to here. But if you jumped to here with your move, that's why I said I'll place mine there, right? I can jump to here because it's now only over pieces. Also, I can't jump over this one by having a gap first and then jumping. So this is a restrictive piece, but it's very mobile when you know what you're doing. Because it can jump, and it can also, you can imagine if I've got a piece here and I've got a piece here, you can still get in here. Normally nothing can get in there because you can hop into them.
Okay.
Right, but you couldn't, or even if it's here.
But you have to go in a straight line.
Straight line. It has to be a straight line. And if you imagine if you placed your grasshopper here, you could jump into here. But if you had a grasshopper here, you could jump into here and then jump further. So you can kind of rally and think about how they're going to go. So the grasshopper can jump any number of spaces, but it cannot jump over a gap. In the case here, I can't jump over this gap to get here. I have to jump here. And it can't jump a gap to get there as well. It basically can never jump over a gap. So if you've placed this one, I'll place this one. Go ahead.
What about the spider?
So that, I told you, moves 3.
3, okay.
But you can't move this spider because it would separate the hive. So at the moment, having a string is actually quite bad because you can't move these pieces. This piece can't move. This piece is the only one that can move. And this piece, so you've got 4 pieces with only one that's movable. So you might want to think about how you can open that up.
I'm going to open it up by placing my ant.
Great idea. And do you remember how the ant moves?
I do.
Tell me. Or tell the people.
He can go anywhere.
He can go anywhere. So he can't go except on top. So only the beetle can go on top. But yeah, so then I'm going to place something similar. I'm going to place one here. And so you can see now where there's a balance of trying to place your pieces and also maneuver your pieces and get theirs stranded and stuff. And it's a really interesting one. And all the information is always in front of us. I always know what pieces he has left. He always knows what pieces I have, and we can see the board and we know the aim. So that's why I meant it feels like chess with this 1v1 unique piece combinations. But I really like that as a start. So go ahead, Colin. Let's just play some movement. So you would have to imagine how it would get there, which is it can come around here. Now, it actually can come to here, so that's fine. What you've done is you've freed up mine, so I'm going to use this one to jump into here. Am I going to do that? I might move my spider. I think I'm going to move my spider. So 1, 2, and 3. So you freed my grasshopper from no longer being connected to my spider.
Oh, he's kind of a bit isolated, that poor little
Ant.
ant.
Yeah. Sneaky. Now, remember, you can't place a piece that touches my colour.
I remember
Okay.
now.
You can place it there. Correct. Now, I think...
It's interesting not being able to place them next to the other colour.
Yeah, yeah. And it stops them from obviously just individually each placing it around their queen. So I'm going to place this. 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Sneaky. Sneaky indeed. So now what I can do is I can go 1, 2, 3, and suddenly your beetle cannot move.
True.
Right, so then that way you can kind of block them off in that way, and that's so it's handy for me now. I know that this queen can't move because it would separate the hive. This one can't move, and I've now forced a little kind of stale situation here for you.
Very interesting.
I mean, not saying you're going to lose or anything. It's just, but it's something to be. Oh, so hang on. These are your pile. These are your pile. These are my pile. Maybe we should put some kind of montage music as we play. Exactly, play as we play through.
So I can't put it there.
Can't touch that. You can do that. Okay.
No, I don't want to do that.
Okay.
I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3.
Yep. Fine move. Fine move. I'm going to play my ant to here.
Tricky, tricky, tricky. With the jumping one,
Yeah.
so if I jumped here,
Yeah.
I can still jump again.
That will be, yes, but that will be your turn. Next
Yeah.
turn you'd have to jump. But you can use your turn to do that for sure. So because that didn't require you to move any of the pieces, apart from the clumsy hands, it didn't require you to move any of the pieces.
Yeah,
So
because you
that's
can
fine,
jump out.
Because you can jump out.
Oh, like different from the ant when he got stuck, right?
Exactly. Yes, that's a great point. That said, fortunately, you've now enabled me to move my ant, because without him here, it would break the hive. Now it does. So now I can come along here, and come here.
Whereas he now holds the hive together, so he can't move it.
And now he can't move. So you could have moved if I hadn't moved my ant.
Interesting.
So I think, and I've only played this a couple of games before this one, but I think, so obviously, you know, the tactics might be wrong, but I think use the fact that it can only be one hive as a kind of a strategic tool against the other player. Okay, sneaky. So, okay. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my... Let me see, this is a tricky one.
Yeah, it's interesting because of how it's compared with chess, right? And then it's similar in many ways in terms of pieces that work in certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
You've got two different colors, obviously, but it's also completely different.
Yes, you're right. How you play is totally different. Yeah, and yeah, exactly. It doesn't feel like chess, but it was that kind of the similarities for me were the complete information. We always know exactly what everyone else has. We just don't know what they're thinking, and it's that similar idea of we're both targeting each other's piece. It feels very equal in terms of the play. Like it's not like one person has a massive advantage over the other. And it's using the different abilities of the different pieces in order to try and win. Can't place it there because it's not your colour.
Indeed.
But if you're looking for something, you could move this piece to there, and that would block my piece, right?
Yeah.
So you could move this here, and now I'm unable to move any of those pieces. You can move it on any side you like. Okay.
Yeah, it's possibly a little bit closer to Go, I guess, because Go you build on the other pieces, whereas chess you can move any free space, whereas Go you're connecting to the main.
Fair enough.
in a
Yeah,
sense, right?
fair enough. Maybe it's like that. Yeah.
But in Go, obviously, you're just placing pieces. The pieces don't go anywhere later. So it's an interesting little evolution of those kind of games. And interesting being obviously like hexagonal rather than squares. I don't think it would work with squares, obviously, it'd be too limiting.
I think you're right. I think that, and it's nice, the flavour. I quite like the flavour of, okay, it's a bit weird that different insects would work together, but I quite like the flavour of it being a hive and you're protecting the queen bee. And they haven't just stuck with it being bees. They've got all these different types of insects there. And or you know, arthropods and arachnids and all that, for those who are particularly worried about that.
Those who know what they're talking about.
For those who care about that stuff, yes. Okay.
Are you stumped? Is it because I'm...
Because you did the move I told you.
I
Sorry, no, because I was talking. Focus, Mark. So I think I'll play a piece here, which is a grasshopper.
Wise move. I was thinking something
And
similar.
it stops you from playing any piece around here because you can't place it touching, and it kind of blocks off this whole gap here.
Yeah. It's interesting how you block the pieces off, because almost none of my pieces can move, right? Like
Yeah.
this guy can't move, this guy can't move,
Yeah.
this guy can't move,
That guy
this
can't move.
this guy can't move. Like, the only one that can move is this guy.
Yeah. But that's kind of the problem with going in the file. So you have to, I think, and maybe that's, like, this is just the first game for fun, right, guys? It's not a big deal. But avoiding the file, I think, is quite important, because if you're stuck with the same, so then now suddenly you start to think about how you can start opening up the pieces here. Okay. Fine. Now the grasshopper could jump to here.
Yeah.
Right. Irrespective of the distance, it's allowed to jump. So I think what I'll need to do is play a beetle here. Okay. So what Colin's going to be able to do now is to jump from here to here. He's got this piece that can jump to here, which will block off my queen. And I think what he's probably trying to do is free up the ant, not the ant, these I guess is what he's trying to free up mostly. So maybe if he jumps to here, then he can get to here and he can open up some of these over a little bit of a couple of turns. Because these here are doing nothing for him.
Such a waste of space.
It's a waste of space. It's a waste of space. So I think what
I like to flip the narrative and think, well, I've really like contained these.
So I'll move this piece here.
Oh my gosh, that's not what I wanted to happen.
Okay, so Colin does that. Good idea. Start to free up some of this stuff here. I think what I'll need to do is, let me see. What's the right thing to do here? So to show what we can do here. So if I've got my, let's say this was a spider, I'm going, oh, it is spider. 1, 2. Now I get to here. Right.
Jump around.
I can't go in this way. I have to jump around up here.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's here, right?
Sounds like an excellent move.
It does, but that gives you all your availability to move around. So I'm not that rushed to do that, Colin. But thank you for the concern on there. I think what I need to do is play my grasshopper.
Oh, it's so nearly contained.
It's so nearly contained, but it's not quite useful enough. I think I will need to play this here, and I'll tell you why in a second. So I'll play my grasshopper here. So it doesn't actually open up that much yet, but it does a little bit. Hello! He's going
Mega
for
jump.
the mega jump. Okay, now I think what I'll do is I will place my beetle here. Now it's getting intense. Okay, but what does that mean? It means I may close off his queen. Or if he blocked it, use this one. So we didn't actually use the beetles much in the way they could be used, which is, for example, on here, because you couldn't move a beetle, but what if there weren't these here, what you could do is you could place this here, and suddenly it frees up a slot, and it goes on here. So that's a Hive Pocket. I believe it's called Hive Pocket. Yep, Hive Pocket. Great little fun, short, interactive two-player game. I'll actually pass over to Colin to give any thoughts.
I thought it is an excellent game. I think, like you said, it ticked my initial thoughts in terms of these are like super robust. You see, I can just throw them around.
You can lose them easily. Yeah.
But yeah, very losable. That's probably something to bear in mind. And obviously you don't get any spares, right? So
No.
you have to look after them.
Yep.
It's relatively easy to see the difference. I do realize that sometimes I was like having to take a moment to realize the difference between some pieces, like the ant and the arachnid, the spider.
I think, by the way, noted, especially for those who may be colorblind or not, that could be a difference as well. But I think the designs, once you get used to it, the designs are okay.
Yeah, the designs are different enough. I think if you're colorblind, you'd still
Yep.
be okay. But they definitely help you if you're struggling with that. I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it's going to be something you have to play a few times to get your head around. I don't think necessarily straight off the bat some of your less intense gamers will get it right away. But I'd imagine it doesn't take a lot of games before you get some of the basic principles and you get to play a little bit more. And I like the idea that, as you mentioned, there's some additional pieces to throw in. So if you get a little bit like, okay, well, it's a bit rote now, we understand what we're doing, you can throw in some extra ones to mix it back up again. Yeah.
Any
Okay.
downsides? Anything else to add? That's a good summary. Anything else to add?
Nope. I think that's it.
Okay, so maybe I'll talk just for reference for those, because although I haven't yet used these, just for people's own reference, as you mentioned here, we have 2 additional pieces. So the mosquito and the ladybug. So the ladybug, again, this is why it's taken out, because it's a little bit more confusing. Colin, the ladybug moves 3 spaces, reminiscent of this guy.
Yep.
But it must move exactly 2 on top of the hive and then move down on its last move. So if I was here, it must move 2 on the hive, 1, 2, and then must move down on the last one. Okay, so it's not necessarily more complex when just the movement, but it's actually harder to understand when you're playing what the pieces will do.
But that's some really interesting stuff, like because you can go 1, 2, and they can completely swap sides.
Yeah, exactly. Great point. Yeah. Or if I suppose if you're quite far away, it's like a jumping for a grasshopper. You can get quite far. You can move 3 spaces directly through without having to kind of go round like a spider would.
The net would be here, which is like one more step than a spider would get.
Exactly.
Yeah, cool.
So that's the ladybug, and obviously if there was, imagine if there was stuff here, the spider would take like 5 turns to get round, whereas he could jump straight through. So that's the ladybug, but note it can't end on the hive, so the beetle has the ability to block the pieces.
Still special.
But this one can't block. Okay. So that's the ladybug. Any questions on that?
Nope.
Okay. Now the last one, which is again a little bit more complex when it comes to trying to predict or to plan your moves, is the mosquito. And this is placed in the same way, so you play in the same way, which is attached to your own color. But once it plays, it takes the movement characteristics of any creature it touches, including the opponents. So it changes its characteristics throughout the game. And then it says the exception is if it moved as a beetle on top of the hive, it continues to move as a beetle until it gets off the hive. But basically, and it also, and a fun fact, if it only touches another mosquito, it can't move because it just assumes it's just a mosquito and it has no other characteristics.
Oh,
so it's a pretty, but that's but it's a bit more complex when you're trying to play it in the
so
nuances of the game.
He could do it. Well, let's assume that these were somehow double connected.
Yeah. For example, yeah. But in that case, he's touching the ant, so he's got the ant characteristics. So whatever it's touching, it takes the characteristics of another. But you can imagine it being like, for example, here, where it wouldn't break the hive. So this one, whereas no, because it would always be touching another one like this, so it couldn't move. But anyway, so
it's only if you were crazy enough to place it here, and then be like, oops.
So exactly. So those are the different additional pieces. I think it's fine without him. I think it would add a fun extra element to those who feel they've already, inverted commas, solved the game. But I also feel like because it's playing against someone, you don't really, in the same way, you don't really solve chess, because you're responding to their moves. I feel like it's got a lot of potential to sit there, and I really like how portable it is. I mean, this is a small, hand-sized bag that you don't need. good enough
Yeah,
quality.
and they made it pretty like robust and durable. The bag as well. It's pretty.
And the little
solid.
pieces here, and I think you may have mentioned I saw a review online where I saw it where they said to you camping. So you can take it camping, you can play on the dirt, and there's no problem. So I really like this game. It's a great little touch, Cole. So I appreciate the birthday gift, and I'm looking forward to maybe we can play again after this to have a little game,
rematch.
A little rematch. So yes, I think that's a kind of an AVG game. I would recommend it for those who are interested in learning a new game. Maybe if they're interested in chess, but not as complex yet. But not for the very basic gamers who you're struggling with to get into games.
Yeah, I think it'd be more interesting for kids than straight up chess because of the bugs and stuff.
Good,
awesome.
Good point. So good stuff, Colin. Another episode of AVG of accessible board gaming, guys. Thanks very much for joining in. I hope you enjoyed the Hives Pocket. Would highly recommend it. And I guess if you have any questions, feel free to let us know.
Yeah, drop anything down in the comments in terms of things we could do differently, questions you have. And if you want to see more videos like this, just hit the subscribe button and you'll get notified when we do the next game.
Awesome.
Goodbye, everyone. Hope you've enjoyed it. Sweet.